welcome to death row.
Like we always do about this time.
I'm gonna fight your fucking ass!
You don't got, you're playing touch butt with that dork in the park.
There's a little snake in the grass.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
No fucking Jesus, people! I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody!
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back.
Who the fuck is that guy? Break out the red panties. We're rich, baby.
I would like to introduce...
Welcome to the MMAforMoney Show, episode 47. In this show, we review UFC on ESPN 13, Kadar vs. Ige, and UFC on ESPN Plus, Figueiredo vs. Benavidez 2, plus previewing UFC on ESPN 14, or if you would prefer, UFC on Fight Island 1, 2, 3. I am Bob Voss, your favorite guardsman at MMA State of Mind, here with Mike Copenhaver. You can find him at Don't Cope Just Win on Twitter. Also, follow the show on Twitter at MMAforMoney Show. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Just stoked to be here to talk about some more UFC and to go over last weekend's fights.
Well, it's a Wednesday, so you know what that means. The MMAforMoney Show is here. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, the RSS feed. Also, please check out our YouTube. Didn't quite make it out that way last week, but this week should finally be on video for you guys, as well as tidbits of the breakdowns, the bets, reviews, all that little bit. There's a lot of content there on our channel. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share to spread the word, please. Now, first we're going to review UFC on ESPN Fight Island 1. But you know what? We have a lot to get to. We don't want to waste your guys' time, so I'm just going to do results, reading straight results until we get to the fights later on the card that interest us the most. So, Mike, if you want to interject at any point, by all means do so. Otherwise, I think the first fight we're actually going to talk about is Jimmy Rivera versus Cody Stamann. But until then, we're just reading some results. Jack Shore got a second round rear naked choke over Aaron Phillips. He was a massive favorite, so good thing he did that. Liana Jajowu, I'm going to get this eventually one day. She got a round one armbar. Plus 170, big underdog there. Jared Gordon with Paul Felder stepping in, got the unanimous decision victory over Chris Fishgold. Modestas Bukauskas won by KO TKO retirement over Andreas Michailidis. Leon Murphy surprised everyone with a round one ground and pound TKO over Ricardo Ramos. Kazmat Chimaev, everyone's new favorite Dagestani, got a round two Darce choke over John Phillips. And Monir Lazez got a unanimous decision over Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Then Molly McCann lost, which is just, that's fun for everybody. So the first one we're actually going to break down. It was a bet that we had. It was a loss. I'm actually fairly surprised about the result. Not because I thought that Stamann won and it was a bad judge's call or anything like that, but I thought if Cody Stamann was able to enforce the wrestling, and I think it was pretty clear here that in terms of awesome offensive wrestling, he had the edge. It's just that Rivera had just good enough wrestling to nullify any advancement of position. Cody ended up losing the unanimous decision to Rivera. We lost that bet. I still think Cody Stamann has a higher ceiling and Rivera is pretty much at it and on the downgrade. It was a close fight. This is one that if they have in another year, I can see going different. Mike, do you have any particular feelings on this fight? I know it was a loss for us, but I mean, Stamann looked good for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Rivera, he looked really good, and he was sharp in the pocket with his boxing, and he was definitely made Stamann, pay for his entry, so it just made him a little hesitant. So Cody Stamann really didn't impose his game the way he wanted to with the takedowns and or striking. So hats off to Jimmy Rivera, and he deserved that win.
Man, that early goings in the first round where I believe it was a slam by Stamann, lifted him up, turned him over, put him out. I was like, okay, this is exactly what we want. This is how this fight's going to go. And then obviously that slowly faded away. Now, in the next fight, this one I'm just straight up pissed. But this is judging related. Tim Elliott apparently won a unanimous decision victory over Ryan Benoit, who was another bet for us, another underdog bet at plus 110. I understand the color commentary and all those guys were just fawning over Tim Elliott. Am I completely blind and completely biased that we bet on this fight that Elliott, that they had Elliott winning. Like, I thought it was clear Benoit, clear 29-28 for me. Am I way off here? Am I going way too deep into the fact that I had money on this?
No, I mean it was just clear for me too. I mean, if it was how many times did you touch the balloon at the fair? Tim Elliott did a great job, man. He touched all those balloons. So I guess those counts as strikes now, significant ones. I didn't see very many real significant strikes from Tim Elliott. I don't care what you say. We were on the right side of that bet. I'll bet Ryan Benoit every single time. I bet it again. If it comes up, it is what it is. You take the loss as it comes. But like I said, a fight's a fight, and no way did Elliott really damage Benoit with any of those strikes. So those pitter-patter butterfly little strikes are not really keen to me. So I don't know what to say, man. I'm sorry, but we'll just keep on moving on like we do and get to the W's.
Well, and one bothersome thing, too, is honestly it depended on the ref, too, because if I can think of at least 2 or 3 refs right now that if during that submission attempt that Benoit had on Elliott, heard the grimace and saw the grimace and heard the scream of Elliott, they would have called that. Oh, dude, I was begging. I secretly I had my own bet. I bet Ryan Benoit by submission. It was plus 1100, and I was that was close. I was screaming for it, man. I really thought that he was gonna have the chance at a submission because he's been over in New York and the East Coast training with Renzo Gracie and them, and just getting his jiu-jitsu game really sharp. So I just I thought it might happen, and man, that grimace, like you said, there's some refs that might have called it for the grimace, but he definitely just didn't verbally wince or scream enough to give it the verbal. But it was what it was, and Elliott just gives me, it irks me, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in shock silence here, man. That plus 1100, that was well worth a stab, and considering how close that got, I mean, you were right there. That's rough. What's even worse is that, so I had 1 unit on Benoit, and then I put 1 unit on the submission, because I felt like, if Benoit wins, even if he wins a decision, that the 1 unit, that I'd win on Benoit would cancel out the 1 unit that I'd lost on the submission. So the double whammy really hurt. It was crazy, though, going through that fight, because you think you're going to at least clear, an even night, and then all of a sudden you lose 2 units or whatever. So it is what it is. I always believe in myself and keep chasing those, because there not many people would have put that money down on that plus 1100, and I really thought that it could happen. Oh, and it was crazy close. Yes, that was a losing night for us, minus 2 units. Obviously, we never stop there, and we get them back. So the main event had Calvin Cater. I've heard it different from every person announced in that fight. Although he was a big favorite against Dan Ige, he looked phenomenal. At times it was close, but it was fairly clear to me. I was actually very confused listening to the broadcast. Actually, at one point I switched to, because I watched it after the fact, I switched to watching the Spanish broadcast, so I didn't have to listen to just them fawning over how close of a fight it was. How Dan Ige, he almost got that round, or I have this even going in. It's I thought I could have given Ige 1 round. The commentary, really thought it was completely clear for Cater, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want to bet. I know he was a huge favorite. I had a small bet on Go's decision that was plus 384. Nothing to write home about. I think I only threw a quarter unit on it, but I was just man, that really seems like a way to go for it. I was actually leaning towards that as a prop bet to give out on the show, but I had a feeling that all the damage Danny Gay's taken in his last couple fights, I'm not sure if he could have made it to the final bell, and Calvin Cater definitely snapped his head back a couple times, but yeah, I was a little flabbergasted by the just fawning over Ige in this fight, similar to the fawning over Elliott. And that one, he actually got a decision, so I was getting kind of worried towards the end there. Yeah, the commentary is super biased lately. It really irks me when you have a bet and the commentary is going the other way, almost like they have an agenda. But it also could be just that we're just so stressed out during the bet that you just aren't thinking clearly. So it is what it is, man. But I definitely dislike the commentary a lot of the time. I miss Joe Rogan. I like Joe Rogan, DC, and Anik together. Honestly, it's hilarious to me because obviously Michael Bisping has a lot to say and he has a lot of information to give, but then there's that weird moment when either he has it written down or someone hands him a sheet of paper and he randomly reads the miscellaneous Fightonomics striking stats just out of nowhere. like, well, he absorbs this many, like, and it's always like deadpan out of nowhere, and he's usually off on the last number and then corrects himself, but clearly reading something. I'm like, that's not why you're in this position. You don't have to show us your knowledge by reading off some random technical thing that you don't have right off the top of your head. That's not why you're in the position you're in, and honestly, it takes away from the flow of the fight for me. So yeah, yes, I started switching to a different language. Granted, I'm trying to learn Spanish, so that's another reason I figured, hey, I watch something that I kind of like, have that going on in the background. Maybe some things will start clicking. But originally, I was just going to watch that one, but it didn't quite go so well. So any final say here on the main event on Fight Island 1 before we move on to Fight Island 2?
Yeah, I mean, Cater looked good, but he definitely has a problem getting struck on his nose. The injury from Stevens is still hurting him and haunting him. He was prodding at his nose a few times in there that Ige touched, and it's going to be a major problem in the future versus someone that's got some heavy hands. So I look forward to hopefully getting some plus money versus someone with some heavy hands on Cater's nose.
Now, well, and that's very worrisome because, like, even you look at someone like Rory McDonald, like once his nose really went, it never had a chance. Those things take so long to heal that if you keep coming back in the cage, it's never going to fully heal properly, and it's going to be super easy to break and bust like early on in a fight if you have someone with decent hands. So that's a good catch on that. I guess I didn't catch that, but hey, Spanish broadcast. Next up, we're going on the UFC on ESPN Plus, Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2. This was honestly, top to bottom, a very entertaining fight card, even though it ended in sadness. But I'll read off some of what happened here, and then we'll go over the top 4 or so fights. Sergey Spivak versus Carlos Felipe. Spivak got a majority decision. The only thing I want to say about this fight is as soon as the bell rang, Carlos Felipe sprinted across the cage and then started doing the truffle shuffle at Sergey Spivak, and I couldn't deal with my life with that, and I almost had to look away. Next up, Davi Ramos got waylaid by Arman Sarayukin for 3 rounds, getting the unanimous decision. Amir Albazi got a triangle choke in the first round over Malcolm Gordon, even though they kept talking about he had a black belt versus Albazi's purple, and how great of a jiu-jitsu practitioner Gordon was. I mean, obviously it's MMA, so it's different, but after a couple smacks around, he kind of gave up position real quick. Big surprise, Brett Johns, for many, big surprise, got the unanimous decision victory. Montel Jackson was a fairly heavy favorite. And Brett Johns could look good. He's starting to improve a little bit, which is nice. Joe Alvarez got a first-round guillotine over Joe Duffy, who was one of the biggest favorites on the card. Joe Duffy has fallen tremendously from his skill set there at 155. Even in the early goings, they were trading leg kicks, but very early it was limiting his mobility on his leg and very visible, not just from his incredibly pale skin, but like definitely getting hit more there. It was swelling early. And man, Duffy is just done and has retired since. So we'll see how long that sticks. Grant Dawson got a unanimous decision victory over Nad Narimani. One of the worst fights ever. At least it ended quickly as Kadis Ibrahimov got a knee and ground and pound finished by Roman Dolidze in the first round. And then now we're actually going to get to fights we're going to talk about. The important fights on here. And we're doing all this stuff so we have more time to talk about the next card. But first off was our winning bet of the night, which guaranteed a winning night for us. Askar Askarov was plus 170. He got the unanimous decision victory over Alexandre Pantoja. I was getting nervous in this fight. I really was. Not because I didn't think he was winning. I thought he was clearly winning. But again, listening to them on the mic talk about how close it was. They had it 1-1. Maybe it was 2-0 Pantoja. I'm like, just because a guy gets dominant position or threatens of submission or just throws up submissions but doesn't actually get close to any of them in the last minute of the fight minute of the round, that he's clearly losing the entire round, doesn't give him the round. So I was getting a little nervous. I'm like, I think this is utterly clear, but are they just giving it to him because he's in a good position in the last 30 seconds of each round? But no, this one cashed. Askar Askarov looked awesome. Looked like he could do it for 5 easy. Was landing huge. Kudos to Pantoja for taking some of those strikes. And he just was relentless and didn't let up. He had clearly outstruck him in the first round. It was a little bit closer in the second, and then put the gas on in the third. very impressed with him and look forward to seeing him fighting either for the championship or probably just one away there at flyweight. Mike, opinions on Askar Askarov in this fight for our win and just all around on the fight?
Yeah, man, this was actually a great fight to watch. Watching mixed martial arts, Pantoja and him were going back and forth in some really great wrestling and jiu-jitsu scrambles. Askar Askarov, he just seemed to be ahead on every single situation, kind of like we said in our pre-fight podcast. I really just, I like the kid. I like his determination and the grit. I knew that Pantoja was good and he's a black belt, but there's certain levels to the game when you start wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu. When someone's just coming at you non-stop and they just don't stop, it really wears on you, and you're just kind of like, when is it going to end, And if it doesn't end, you're just screwed. So that's kind of what happened in this fight, and it was a great bet. Askar Askarov cashing that for us because it just really patted us going through the night.
Next up, Arianny Lipski, the Violence Queen, or is that the wrong nickname?
Jesus, she. No, that's right. I can't remember.
She was a slight favorite, and they were talking about how Luana Carolina had to watch out for the power, but they're like, she should be able to take it. That's fine. Pretty much the first overhand that Lipski threw landed, sended Luana Carolina down to the floor. She hopped on top of her. They had a scramble position and won with a vicious knee bar in the first round, bent the knee back. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she tore 1 to 7 things in that situation, grimacing and just writhing in pain as Lipski jumped up to celebrate. I liked Lipski here, not enough to bet, but
I like her butt.
Man, she was dominant. That was awesome. Mike, talk to me about that knee bar. That transition was beautiful.
Oh, man. I mean, the way she wrenched on that knee is so vicious and violent that, I mean, it's unreal, man. I mean, a lot of people don't really wrench in or try to break the arm or the knee or do what they're supposed to do in that situation, It's kind of shameful because people get someone in an arm bar and they're like, oh, I don't want to hurt them, but I'm going to try my best to get them to tap. And realistically, you should just be full on balls to the wall, kind of like she was, to get that arm to break or that knee bar. And it sucks to see because that shit hurt bad, man. I was just wincing for that girl, and I never expected in my life for that to happen during that fight. It was an absolute shocker to me. Most fights go 3 rounds. I thought that was going to go 3 rounds for women and for the ladies, and it was unreal, that knee bar and the way she flexed that girl's knee back. Your leg is not supposed to bend like that, and she definitely got injured.
Now, next up, I'm pretty much going to throw this one to you because re-looking over the notes, I realized I never watched this fight. Well, one thing that happens to cut out on some extra time when I watch the fights after the fact is they have the individual fights on the ESPN Plus app, so you don't have to deal with any of the middle stuff. So I just kept clicking next and next and next. I kind of watched out of order, and apparently I just skipped this one. So I will read the result, and then I will throw it to Mike. That's why, full disclosure, we don't BS you guys. That's legit. I've never watched this fight. Raphael Pasau, plus 140, who apparently everyone loves now, so I guess I have to go back and watch this fight, beat Mark Diakese with unanimous decision. So Mike, by all means, tell me what I missed.
Holy shit, dude. The striking defense of Fiziev was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I know he's a world-class Muay Thai striker and the coach over there at Tiger Muay Thai, right? Over there in Thailand?
Yes.
Yes, so the way that he matrix bent back and defended strikes and blocked Diakese's kicks and punches, it was absolutely amazing, man. You definitely need to go back and watch it. It was an absolute treat to watch him display striking defense and then also some offense on Diakese. Diakese's no joke standing, and I know that Fiziev also is a really good wrestler, and I knew that he was the coach, but I thought he was more of a better wrestler than he was a striker, and he totally proved me wrong, in this fight. The striking defense was absolutely amazing. It was some of the coolest shit that I've seen in a long time. Not absorbing punches and just displaying just amazing defense, man. I can't say enough about the performance of Fiziev, and I just hope that they give him time to just keep on developing because he really is amazing.
Well, good to know. I'm going to mark that to watch. Looks like that's probably happening tomorrow because if you guys don't know this, I go to bed immediately after recording this.
Seriously.
In the co-main event, this one was just... I think this was rough for just about anyone who saw it. I think the collective majority of MMA Twitter, especially MMA betting Twitter, were not just on Kelvin Gastelum, but we're on him in a big way. We weren't on him in a big way. We had him to win one unit. And he looked great early, man. Controlling ground game. And then just as he decided to get up, got his ankle grabbed and twisted. And Jack Hermanson rolled into the heel hook. And I don't know if Gastelum had a brain fart or what. He wasn't really defending. And then just quick panic tapped. And it was over in like a minute and a half. So Jack Hermanson, slight underdog, he was plus 100, jumps up in victory, screams like crazy, and then just says what he wants to do for the middleweight division here on out. But you know what? Before I pass it to you, Mike, I just want to say something. He can say all he wants about what's going on. He did mention Jared Cannonier should get the title shot. I mean, I wish he would, because you know how much we love Jared Cannonier, how much money he makes us. But dude's still recovering from a torn pec, so let's give him a little bit of time. But he needs to watch out, because Jared Cannonier will just shove his face right back down his throat again. Won't be a dog this time, but that'll happen. Sorry, that's a little anger towards Hermanson, who I thought was overmatched in this fight. And although, yes, the fight only lasted like a minute and a half, he was clearly outmatched in that minute and a half until he got the sub. So he was losing until he won, which I know isn't a good argument, because he did win, and anyone who had money on him did win, and all that jazz. But at least anyone who watched this fight was just... If this was any other time in the fight with just a little bit more sweat, it wouldn't have even happened. So, I don't know. I'm just going to wallow in my self-pity after that one. So that was a loss. That was minus one unit, but we had a guaranteed winning night because of Askarov. So we won half a unit. So still a winning night, but man, I thought Gastelum was borderline a sure thing. That's crazy. Go ahead, Mike, before I don't know, start to cry or dry heave or any combination of those two things.
Oh man, I was in absolute shock when this shit happened. I fucking couldn't believe it, dude. I was sitting there so stoked after Askarov did his performance. I was actually more worried about Askar's fight than I was on Gastelum. I thought Gastelum's...
Me too, and I picked him.
I thought Gastelum's wrestling was just going to be way too much. I never thought jiu-jitsu-wise that Hermanson was really going to be able to do anything. The leg lock, heel hooks, and all that stuff, that was definitely one fear that I did have, because Hermanson was so long. But never in my life did I thought that he wasn't going to be able to defend it or escape it. He didn't even put his foot on the butt and try to push off and escape and roll. He did have it in there deep, so to his defense, he was kind of just fucked. But it's one of those positions where if you don't have very flexible legs at all, which I don't, or hamstrings, you don't want to be in that position. And so I understand why he taps so fast in that sense. But man, as a fucking OG fighter that I put money on, and I thought that he would fight a little bit harder, I was super disappointed. My buddies over here at the barbecue were super disappointed. It really was just a silencer for all of us. But Jack Hermanson, he won't get away with it for too much longer.
Well, and that's the rough thing. It's the rough thing back in Kelvin Gastelum. It's why so many times I don't, is he is so skilled and has so many check marks for him and does stuff like this. I don't mean like he has a brain fart and gets a sub. Like he outmatches his opponent in like every category and then loses.
Gets beat by Neil Magny.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was such a rough fight. Yeah,
I bet Neil Magny by
Me too.
3-round. I bet him by 3-round decision.
Ooh, wow,
dude, it was gangster, dude.
That's
I have a Bovada slip for it.
Yeah, that fight was crazy because it was almost flipped. You thought that like the order of rounds they would win, because you're like, okay, well normally Gastelum can't gas it, like has no energy and gasses late, whereas he was whooping Magny early and Magny came back for the latter round. Whatever.
Yeah,
fight too long ago we don't need to talk about, but we're gonna go to the main event, which was even sadder.
Jesus, I love you, Joe B.
I'm coming around on Davison Figueiredo here, not because he beat Joe B, but dude's just crazy talented. I was putting him down more just because I wanted Joe B to win. Even if you listen to our last show, we picked Joe B just because like he had a chance and all that kind of stuff. But in hindsight, Joe B has never come back from a loss and avenge that loss. He just hasn't. It's not something he does. Granted, he rarely ever loses, so that's the hard part. But man, everyone's saying Davison Figueiredo is like the future of this division, and don't get me wrong, he looked amazing, and the up and comer fights are going to be great. But he's 33 also. I mean, Benavidez is only 35. I mean, I know that's old for flyweight especially, but man, I just wanted Joe B to, even if he was going to win and then drop the belt right there and say he retired, I would have been down for that. But man, Figueiredo dropped him early, real early. I think, I don't know if they were all listed as such, but at least watching it, he at least put Benavidez down 3 times. I don't know if they counted them all as knockdowns, but to the naked eye, they were knockdowns. That's actually the most impressive thing, because obviously Benavidez was out of it. There's no way getting knocked down that many times you weren't at least somewhat concussed. And his defense for the first 2 rear naked chokes was utterly amazing, to the point that I think it was the third one, I think there was only 3, that rendered him unconscious. The ref wasn't going to call it just because he did so well defending the previous 2. And then, got choked unconscious, never even tapped. So kudos to him for that. But I don't know, man. It was rough. Definitely a sour note to end the night, even though there was no bet on this fight at all. But man, it was rough.
Yeah, man. It was definitely rough to watch Joe B get punished like that. If you go back to the podcast last week, even when you heard me pick, I said this is not a bet. I want Joe B to win personally, and I wanted him to win just because he's a great person and he's also a great fighter. It was sad, man. I hate seeing someone get punished like that, and then you go on the internet after and you see everyone attacking him and his lady and just saying the worst things to them. It's just crazy how insecure the world is and how keyboard warrior everyone seems to be. But Megan Olivia, Joe's wife, was such a sweetheart, kneeling there by the cage with her like an angel after he got knocked out and hurt, just wondering if he's okay. He's so lucky to have such a great wife and a woman just like I am, and Bob is as well. And I just... I don't want to see really Joe B fight anymore now. I'd like him to go, and do broadcasting or do something else. He's a super smart guy. I don't think he really needs to do this fighting stuff anymore. And he's taking a lot of damage now, and I just don't think that it's worth it anymore. But we love you, Joe B, on the MMA for Money show, and we always will, and that's why we always backed you.
Yeah, man, it was just... I don't know, I'm going to move on before we get a little bit too sentimental, because I'm about to go there. So we're going to, before we're going to have to look in a mirror and tell each other that we're good enough, we're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like us. We're going to move on before any of that stuff happens. Next up, we're back on Big ESPN. I guess you could put it that way, for Fight Island 3. Sounds like a terrible, terrible slasher flick. That's like a C movie that they just keep making sequels to. But there's good fights on here. So this is Whittaker versus Till on UFC on ESPN 14. Okay, we are going to do quick picks until we get to a bet. Then we're going to talk about it further. Then quick picks again until we get to the main card. And we'll do a little bit more in-depth on said main card. But I think we're doing good. Banged through 2 whole fight cards in just under 30 minutes. So new land speed record. But going on to this one, Nathaniel Wood is a massive minus 450 favorite versus John Castaneda plus 360. I think it's warranted. I think Nathaniel's good. Nathaniel Wood is better on the ground in a major way, and I think he could take it there and possibly get a finish here. So my pick goes Wood, Mike Wood, or Castaneda.
Wood all day. I don't think Castaneda is even close to Wood's level of competition.
Next, Ramazan Amiev, who I've been fairly high on since early goings in the UFC, is minus 400 versus Nicholas Stoltz, who is plus 325. I'm going to back Amiev again. Sorry to not give you guys any dogs thus far, but they're big favorites for a reason. Mike, Amiev versus Stoltz.
Yeah, Amiev's wrestling and his power is going to just be a little too much. And yeah, like you said, there's going to be a lot of favorites right here because you can't grab an underdog for a while.
Yeah, and honestly, this is just them filling up the card with as many of the foreign fighters as they can, because this is on foreign soil, so they can actually get them fights that they're contractually obligated to get, and then filling in their opponents whenever they can. So you're getting some dramatic favorites here. Next up, Betch Correa is plus 130 versus Pani Kyanzad minus 150. You know what? Screw it. I'll go with the dog here. I'll go with Correa. She just finds a way to get these decisions, even though she is not athletic, but tends to swing wild haze and grunt and get decisions. So I'll give the credit there to Correa.
Man, I can never do the Serena Williams of MMA, Beth Corrier, so I'm going to go with Pani, even though everyone stormed her line already.
Oh. Pretty sure this was a pick'em last week. Obviously, we didn't go over it because we had enough stuff to go over last week, but I'm pretty sure it was a pick'em last week. Next up, Raphael Pasau, plus 230, is fighting Tanner Boser, minus 270. That's a huge favorite because everyone saw him get a finish, even though they're not remembering that he's a Canadian decision machine. Sorry, I meant to look. Actually, I'm going to quick look it up. So if you can do a quick pick right now, go for it. I want to check a line for this.
I'm going to go with Boser. Pasoza, I don't know enough about him, and he just doesn't have enough upper echelon experience.
I was hoping for like a sweet line because everyone forgets. Because every once in a while you'll get these guys in the UFC that they only look at their UFC fights, even though Boser hasn't had many, or one or two, whatever. And everyone goes by those results, not what they've done their entire career. So you get these sneaky good lines. This one isn't. Boser by decision is plus 105, so not great, but it's way better than the minus 270. I'm going to pick Boser, but for comparison, stuff like this happened in the past with Serkinov. Everyone kept getting him by TKO and in the distance, stuff like that, but everyone forgot that he's a judo player, and that's where his main thing went. And his first two fights, he finished inside the distance by knocking someone out. So you got some sweet submission lines, like for a couple in a row. But either way, sorry. That's why going back into a fighter's career can be very helpful for props if you're into that sort of thing. Next up is Movsar Evliov, minus 195 versus Mike Grundy, plus 168. This fight does have our first bet of the fight card, but I will give it to Mike because this was his bet.
Yeah, man, Mike Grundy, his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu are just really world-class in the sense of what I like to see in a mixed martial arts fighter. I really think that Movsar has great jiu-jitsu too, and I think his ground game and his wrestling is par as well, but it's not to the level of Grundy. I really believe that Grundy's stronger in every situation, and in the scrambles, he'll be able to overpower Movsar, who's a little bit younger, who hasn't learned as much as Grundy, and in life in general and in fighting. And so I think that Grundy will be able to outmatch him in the wrestling, and then Movsar will then be have no choice but to stand. And someone who's not a world-class striker, not saying that Grundy is, we're going to have a much more even fight on the feet. And so the odds at plus 168, they don't reflect they don't seem right to me. So I want to throw down the 1 unit on Mike Grundy at plus 168 because I believe he's way more talented on the ground jiu-jitsu wise and scrambling and wrestling. And so with those dog odds, it seems like a great bet.
This is one of the bets that's very much on the value side. I do agree with Mike. This should be way closer to a pick'em, minus 110 apiece, easy. So one have to fight that close and you're getting this big of dog odds. By all means, go for it. This was one of my main bases for the Askarov pick last week at the plus 170. So similar odds to this it was close with me giving the edge to Askar, and I thought the plus 170 was ridiculous. And this is similar. This is plus 168, which at worst is a close to even fight with certain categories leaning towards Grundy. So our bet, yes, is 1 unit at the plus 168 to win you guys 1.68 units. Next up, some more quick picks. Jake Collier is plus 190 versus Tom Aspinall, minus 230. I don't know. I've always liked Jake Collier, but I don't think he's going to pull this one off. So I will go with Aspinall. Mike.
I will go with Aspinall as well.
Okay, next up, Nicholas Dalby going into his second UFC run is minus 265 versus Jesse Ronson, who's plus 225, the old Canadian favorite, getting second life as their need of fighters. I'm going to pick Nicholas Dalby just because I think it's funny that his original claim to fame was fighting Darren Till, and now he's on a Darren Till undercard. I mean, he's going to win a hard-fought decision where he piles up the output, but I'm going to go with Dalby. Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dalby as well. I think he just has way too much experience and just a better ceiling than the guy he's fighting.
I think he take way more damage too. I don't think Bronson can handle the amount of damage that Dalby can put out. Next up, Grandpa Trinaldo is fighting. Get excited. The man who may be 35, he may be 45, he may be 55, but he is currently minus 165 versus Jay Herbert, who's plus 145. If this was a year and a half ago, Trinaldo would be a minus 350 in this fight. I think these odds are pretty ridiculous. He has definitely slowed a tad, and his chin is finally starting to falter after years and years and years, heck, decades. I'm still going to pick Trinaldo, but I don't know. If it dips a little bit close towards even money, I actually might have to take a stab on this because I think he is far and away the better fighter here. So my pick is Trinaldo. Mike?
Yeah, Trinaldo, man, he's got so much experience, man, and he never quits. He always gives you a great fight. I'm gonna have to go with him as well because he's the OG. He's got more experience. But Jai Herbert, he's no slouch. If Trinaldo doesn't keep him on his back foot and doesn't mix in takedowns, then he's gonna have some problems with a little bit of the length of Jai Herbert. But Trinaldo's not an idiot, and he also has a decent gas tank. He is used to the humidity as well over in Brazil, similar to Dubai or in the Middle East. So I think that Trinaldo will still get the fight.
Next up, a little bit of deja vu. Khamzat Chimaev. Yes, that Khamzat Chimaev, who like literally just fought, is staying on Yaz Island, and he is fighting Reese. I think that's pronounced the name. It's Ryhs. I'm going to go with Reese McKee. But that's not all. Khamzat is minus 1,200 versus McKee, who's plus 775. Obviously, he impressed in his last out, and this is definitely showing that. Minus 1,200 is crazy steep. One thing I might look at is currently Chimaev wins by decision is plus 560. And although he's much better than this guy, and this guy is much worse than the guy he just fought, the back-to-back weight cuts, I think, are going to hamper his ability a little bit. He should still clearly win here, but decision is a little tempting at the plus 560, and I think that's only going to climb as more and more people play him inside the distance. Currently, inside the distance, he's minus 430. So that's going to continue to get slammed, and I might put a little bit on that closer to the event, especially because I think it's going to keep climbing, especially if it gets to like minus 600, 700, 800 in that range, because then I can still put a half unit down just as a side bet and make a good amount on that. So I guess no-brainer, everyone's new favorite, one of everyone's new favorite Russian fighters, Chimaev. I'm going to go with the ridiculous favorite. Mike, are you going with that or going for the huge upset?
Man, I went with Khamzat last week with the submission, and that's exactly what he did. And so I really like your way of thinking this week, and decision at those plus odds, it seems like really good value. And with the heat over there and the humidity and everything, it could definitely stretch in past 3 rounds and get to that decision. So to get a negative 1,200 favorite at plus 500 or more is absolutely incredible. But Khamzat's probably going to destroy this kid.
Oh, more than likely. I have no doubt that is more likely what's going to happen. We'll just see how much he can do. I mean, he went not quite 2 full rounds of Phillips, and it was all one-way traffic. So, I mean, there's that, but I guess we shall see. We are on to the main card. No, that does not mean we're almost done, because this is a 7-fight main card. Well, I think I have it listed for 6 because I don't think they've decided if the Chimaev fight's going to be on the main card or not. They've said it might be, but as of right now it's 6. That might make it 7. So Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, yes, I said it, is minus 125 versus Gadzimrad Antigulov, which is plus 105. Screw it, I'm going with Craig. I think he might get a submission here. I mean, he is a tough SOB and can take a lot of punishment and find his weird positions to get said sub. Mike, I will throw it to you while I actually look up what buy sub is.
Oh man, Paul Craig's definitely exciting to watch, and so he never quits, and I like that. I don't know, man. I just don't see enough. He gets super lucky, and so I would have to go with Antigulov.
It's not by sub. They only have inside the distance props thus far for everything but the top 3 fights. But it's plus 135 for inside the distance. And because I have a dash on my notes for when the main card starts, apparently I skipped the actual first fight of the main card. So we're going to do a mini time travel back a solid 3.5 minutes.
That's hilarious.
Before we talked about Paul Craig. And we're going to go to what really starts the main event, which is Alex Cowboy Oliveira versus Peter Sabbat. Alex Oliveira is minus 175 versus Peter Sabbat plus 155. This is a very odd fight because Oliveira should straight big brother and destroy him. But he also is a major flake. And if he is not the bully in a scenario, he kind of gives up. I think he'll be okay here because Sabbat is not that guy. I mean, unless he starts throwing some vicious body shots, as he can do. But so I will go with Oliveira with his freakish bull riding strength to just basically throw Sabbat down and beat the ever-loving crap out of him. So I'm going to give my pick to Oliveira at the minus 175. Mike, Oliveira or Sabbat?
Yeah, man, like you said, Alex Oliveira is super exciting, and then sometimes he flounders a little bit, but I think he's got a little too much for Sabbat. He's also just getting better and better as he's gone into his mixed martial arts career. I mean, he used to be a bull rider, and he never even, trained like a lot of these guys. So I'm going to go with Oliveira because I think like he's learning each and every time.
Now we're going to fast forward about 10 minutes, which would have been the end of the Paul Craig breakdown, Paul Craig and Tugulov breakdown, to actually another bet. So this is a beneficial time travel. It's like how Back to the Future 3 was, not Back to the Future 2. Carla Esparza is plus 158 versus Marina Rodriguez minus 180. Carla Esparza is going to get straight boxed up here. In a major way. I do think that Esparza isn't what she once was. Obviously, usually if she has the wrestling advantage, she can usually win a fight at bare minimum just by taking you down, hold you, doing just enough to advance position and pitter-patter strikes that they don't stand you up. But Marina is getting so much better at her takedown defense and getting up when she does get down and establishing a jab early and just pouring on the strikes. I don't think this is going to look good for Esparza. I think it's going to be a clear win for Rodriguez here, and it is a little steep. She's minus 180, but I do think it's very clear that she's going to win, so we do have a bet on this one. It's 1.8 units to win you guys the 1 unit. That's our second bet of the night. Mike, tell me how Marion Rodriguez is just going to make Esparza look straight silly.
Yeah, man, Marina Rodriguez's striking is so much better than Carlos Esparza's that it's not even funny. I mean, in the clinch, with elbows, with knees, whatever she wants to do, she's going to be able to hit Carla Esparza and damage her pretty badly. Carla Esparza is known for her wrestling, and I don't really like her wrestling. I don't think it's not that great.
Super basic.
Yeah, so for as long as she's been fighting, it's really not that great. She doesn't get her takedown rate is not as high as you would like to see for someone whose supposed base is wrestling. So I think that Marina Rodriguez's takedown defense is stellar. I think she'd be able to get back up if she gets taken down. Carla Esparza definitely will get her down at least once, but after Marina gets up and then continues to break Carla's will, I could see her finishing Carla. So we're putting down that 1.8 units to win that 1 unit on this fight because this is one of those women's fights that I just see a gap in striking and just a clear gap. So we're going to throw it down.
In the co-main event, I'm only putting it this way because honestly, the top basically the whole main card of this event is good, but this is just an odd one for me. So this is Fabricio Verdum plus 280 versus Alexander Gustafsson minus 340 at heavyweight, which I know he's long, and you talk about guys that have trained with him talk about how big Alexander Gustafsson is. He's not, though. He's not that big. He isn't. Like, he's going to come in with a gut, man. Like, there's no way around it. He's coming in with a gut. He didn't have tons of, like, upper body muscle or like even like a lot of muscle on his legs. He's gonna come in straight fat. There's no way. Like, he's not coming in at 225. So if he's gonna pull what his training partner did, who I love Ir Latifi, but Ir Latifi was a 205er and came in at like 260 and was like all kinds of knot muscle. It was just ripping jeans just as he walked. And I
looked like a gummy bear.
If Gustafson's anywhere near to that ain't good. I mean, he's a huge favorite because Verdum back from a USADA suspension looked like straight trash in his last fight. But I don't know, man. I guess no matter which way you're leaning on this one, wait for the scale to see how he looks. I mean, if he looks bad, Verdum at dog money might not be too terrible. I'm just saying, if Gustafson looked real bad on the scale. So I'm just going to slide to the left of this one. But I guess tentatively my pick is Alexander Gustafson just because he's more well-rounded. But if I see him on the scale and he just looks just straight sloppy, I might put money down on Verdum. Mike, how do you feel about this fight?
I think this is absolutely weird, man. I don't know what Gus is doing. I don't see a future for him in the heavyweight division, so I guess they wanted to fight with some big names. I think that Gus is going to win. I think his striking is way better than Verdum. Verdum's only chance is to get Gus down and to get a submission, which he can. And don't get me wrong, that would be a great prop to put your money down on for Verdum, is to put him on the submission because that's his best chance in my opinion. But his striking is not there. He's not been fighting enough. He's been kind of playing tiddlywinks and throwing boomerangs and stuff. So I don't quite know where his head's at. And Gus is a little bit more in the game. So I just have to go with Gus. But I don't trust heavyweight fights, and I do not bet them. And I would not bet Gustafson at -340. I think that's crazy.
And you don't want Gustafson to win because you guys don't know this. But if Gustafson wins, I would all but guarantee his next fight is going to be against Francis Ngannou. And you don't want to see what he's going to do to him. You already saw what Anthony Johnson did to him. You don't want to see what Francis Ngannou will do to him. That's not nice.
God, I would love to see it. I would love to see it.
That'd be some nice. Well, there you go. Fine. Let's hope that Gustafson looks amazing and destroys Verdum and then fights Francis Ngannou, and maybe we'll get a good price on Ngannou in round one.
Yes.
In the co-main event, the actual co-main event, it is a rematch. Not just a rematch, it's a trilogy. Why it's a trilogy, I have no idea, because Mauricio Shogun Rua is -190 versus Rogerio Nogira at +165, and he's currently 2-0 in the trilogy. He beat him once in Pride in 2005. He beat him once in the UFC in 2015. And apparently 5 years later, for like a double retirement fight, they're going to just do it one last time. This isn't like Rocky where it was close. I mean, this is clear wins for Rua. I think adding extra letters in front of Hua just makes all kinds of weird stuff. Like I almost said hula. Like there's a lot of stuff that's going on right there in my mouth. He should win this. He absolutely should win this. I think he's going to win this. I think he's going to steamroll him. He has more left in the tank than Nogira. He absolutely does. He doesn't have as clean a boxing, but his leg kicks are there, provided that his knees are stable enough. And he does have a better ground game if it does go there. I'm a little nervous just with the age of these fighters, how much damage they have taken. This was a possibility for a bet for us on this fight card, and I do think he is going to win. But fighters get to an age where you're basically double betting. You're betting that they're going to show up, and you're betting that they're going to win. And sometimes I'm a little bit too scared to take the double bet. So I do think he's going to win here, absolutely. And if it does come down, I'm for adding this as one of our bets if it comes down a little bit, because then I won't feel as like a 13-year-old girl right now. And no, I'm not saying something sexist. Don't come at me, bro. Mike, the co-main event, Rua versus Nogira.
Yeah, man, this is another weird one. I have no clue why we're having a trilogy when the guy's 2-0 and the other guy lost 2 times. So it really makes no sense. Shogun Rua, to me, is the more superior fighter. He showed it 2 times. He's going to show it 3 times. He's fought more recently. He showed me some great performances that I couldn't even believe in a few of them. And I just think that he's too much for Nogueira, and he's going to prove that again this 3rd time. So 3rd time's a charm, even though he did it the first 2 times.
In the main event, we have the former middleweight champion, Robert Whittaker. He is -120 versus Darren Till, plus 100. Till's coming off his win over Kelvin Gastelum, which I suppose in hindsight isn't looking too good. It's a split decision win at that, and his debut at middleweight. Pretty much whoever wins this will likely go for the championship and fight the winner of Paulo Costa versus Adesanya. For me, I side with Whittaker. I think he's more well-rounded striker. He has better wrestling. All of those factors. It kind of just depends. I mean, I talked about this a little bit in the last fight. If Whittaker is Whittaker and he fights even to 85% of what he has shown in the past, it's him all day. That's why I think this is closer to a pick'em than him being a heavy favorite. Is we've seen him take a lot of damage from Romero, and we saw him get finished by Adesanya. So we don't know if he's truly there. So there's another reason why there's no money on this fight for me. But I'm going to pick Whittaker. And also, Till kind of annoys me. So I'll go with Whittaker for that reason too. Mike, the main event, Till versus Whittaker.
Yeah, man. I love me some Bobby Knuckles, so I'm gonna be backing my boy Bobby Knuckles again. I think that guys that go with Romero and fight Adesanya, I think that it takes a special someone to even be able to handle those guys, or even make it into the ring versus them. So I think that Whittaker has just got a more well-rounded game. I mean, I know Till he's a pretty big dude, which he might be a little bit bigger, and he might have a more power shot. But I just don't see him as the more well-rounded fighter. I think Whittaker's smart enough to get takedowns when he needs them. It's going to be a 5-round fight that he's more used to, so he's going to be able to impose this game. So I'm just going to back Bobby Knuckles. I think that he can do it here, and I'd hope that's just an exciting war.
Well, we're going to do a quick review since we are at the end of that event. The quick review on our bets for this event here. We have 1 unit for Mike Grundy at plus 168. So that's to win you guys 1.68 units. We also have a bet on Marina Rodriguez minus 180 to win 1 unit. So that's 1.8 units to win you 1 unit. Now, Mike, before we do the outro, do you have anything else to tell the fans, the people, soon-to-be fans, casual fans, hardcore fans, just about any kind of fan?
Man, if you don't know, you need to get yourself a package, a NASCAR package, especially over at MMAforMoney.com. My boy
Straight
Prime,
money.
Yeah, the king of NASCAR. I mean, there's only been like 9 races, and he's won like I think 6 or so of them. It's like unreal the numbers that he's hitting. It's like every week and sometimes multiple times. Even our boy Super Tip Star Tippy, our producer, he's hit a couple this weekend. Hit the F1 for plus 2.5 units. So shout out to him on that F1 race. And so just get yourself a package and join this team because we're for real.
And Tippy, don't think we didn't notice you changing your avatar to your actual picture, you cute little man, you. Sorry, I had to put that one out there. Now, for the outro. But even before that, I'll get more in depth into the specifics in a second. But please review the podcast. Because just even more so than the other stuff, please review the podcast because it helps spread the word, and also it's a great way for us to see what you like, what you don't like, so we can change. Positive, negative, I don't really care. I just want a review so I know if we're heading in the right direction or if we should pivot or what you like, what you don't like. Very willing to take criticism. By all means, sending DMs, all that kind of stuff. We're open to talk about what we should do to the show to make it better. Anything, we're all for it. But we will be back next week to preview UFC on ESPN Plus 31 home versus Aldana. It's a decent card. Nothing crazy, but you know what? There's going to be some good spots on there. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your platform of choice, the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Overcast, Podcast, RSS feed. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Now we're going to start having some video content pushed out there for you guys, as well as small tidbits of the show and breakdowns. Like, comment, and share to spread the word. And with that, let's roll.